Live streaming is on.
Wait, it's a double duty. I hear it twice.
Mute yourself.
Mute myself?
Whoever's not speaking, mute yourself. So if you're speaking, Janet, then unmute yourself. You're still muted, Janet.
You told me to. Do I not or yes?
Only people who aren't speaking mute themselves so you don't have an echo.
All right. So Stephanie, just mute yourself until I bring you on.
I don't hear anybody. So you guys can both unmute yourself. You should be fine.
I'm unmuted.
You can hear Stephanie.
I know we told her to mute it because you're bringing
You
it
can
on.
unmute yourself, yes. If she's speaking, yes.
Do you want me on? You want me muted on or unmute?
You're good. You're good to go. I'm going to stop this stream so we don't have any of this on this one right now, and I'll just start another one real quick. No big deal. So I'm going to unmute myself unless you guys raise your hand, little hand icon right there to ask a question, or just do it in the chat window. That way we don't have to distract the show. There's a chat window I just opened on the side there.
But you just said the only person unmuted is supposed to be the one talking. So to Stephanie.
Well, unless if you hear an echo, just mute yourself real quick till you start to talk, and then unmute yourself. That's all I'm saying. It'll cut the echoes out. Jitsi usually takes care of it, but we're working out the bugs. All right, start recording, stop live stream. Let's stop that stream real quick.
Well, hello, we are back. This is, again, Dr. Janet Franco, also known as Soulful Rosie. And as I told you in the beginning of the hour, I have some amazing guests on today. And this particular woman, we go back a ways. And you guys know about the Triple Crown of Health and Wellness. I've talked about it on my other shows. And our first jewel of the crown is our oxygen therapies. And I couldn't think of anybody better to come on than a dear friend of mine and an expert in the world of hyperbaric oxygen therapy. So Stephanie Parrish, welcome to the show. And I'm so excited about talking about all these new things you're doing, but let's first talk about hyperbaric. What is your background in hyperbaric and how did you get into it?
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And like you said, we go back a long way.
Absolutely.
We've been through a lot, you and I. And I started in hyperbaric about 10 and a half years ago now. I started when I was living in Canada. We opened a hyperbaric clinic up there. And then I moved from there to St. George, and I've had a fantastic hyperbaric clinic there. And now I'm up in Little Montpelier, Idaho, with another hyperbaric clinic here. So I am internationally certified with the International Hyperbaric Association. I'm also an internationally certified light therapist. I'm a internationally certified microcirculation therapist, amongst a bunch of other stuff. So I get to do a lot of wonderful things in my clinic, and it's all based around the hyperbaric oxygen. And that's what our base is. And then we add other things to that.
It's pretty amazing. Working with you in St. George, the time we were together, the miracles that I saw and the transformation of your clients and all that you do there was amazing. And I know that I've been in the world of hyperbaric now, as you know, for about 9 years myself. So I've been privy to know some of these experts, but for the people are starting to hear more about hyperbaric, as you know, Stephanie, they're starting to really understand it. But let's go back to the layman that doesn't know or has never heard about hyperbaric. What is hyperbaric and how does it help the body so much that we've seen over the last, 50 years now? But explain the basics of hyperbaric.
Right. It's funny that you ask it that way, because when I was first doing my training, I'm certified with Dr. Zaid Ratanzi. He was the one that did my training with me. And it was really funny because he would talk in all this medical language. And I came from hotel management. That was what I did. And I had my own dance studio for many, many, many years. And so to learn the medical world of hyperbaric, and I would tell him, you've got to dumb it down so that I can understand what you're talking about. And I said, basically what you're saying is that the oxygen infuses in all the nooks and crannies of the body, right? And so he finally admitted that. And when I first heard him on stage at a huge national convention talking about nooks and crannies, it kind of made me feel good. I'm like, Yeah, that's what it is. Now people can understand. So it was just kind of this funny that you would use that term. So it's really an interesting thing, because when we breathe in oxygen from the air, we breathe in about 19%. That's all that the oxygen's left in the air. Back in Bible days, it was 40 to 45%. Now it's 19%. When we breathe that in out of the ambient air, our body expels over 11%. There's not very much left for our bodies to function on. And that's part of the reason that we're having so many health problems that we're having right now. We don't have enough oxygen. It's not, our bodies were made to have more oxygen to survive. So when you go under pressure, and I say under pressure, it's our chambers that I use in my clinic go to 1.3 atmospheres absolute. There are others that go deeper, and deeper meaning sea level. So ours go to equal about 9 to 10 feet below sea level. That seems to be the magic number. At that point in time, your body creates millions of extra oxygen molecules. And these are so vitally important. And because they're under pressure, let me step back just a minute. When they go into your body, your red blood cells that are carrying the oxygen are full. They're already full. So they don't have any place to go. So what happens when you're inducing all of these millions of extra oxygen molecules? They need to dissolve. So they dissolve in the body and get into the liquid plasma. So now that they're in the liquid plasma, they can travel everywhere in the body. They get anywhere the liquid is going, the oxygen's going with it. And the key to hyperbaric, and most people don't realize this, it's not like going to an oxygen bar and getting oxygen or even any other way. The only delivery is through hyperbaric oxygen to pressurize and force those oxygen molecules into the tissues. So since it's pushing them into those tissues really don't have a choice. They have to start repairing and regenerating. And this is, I think, why we see so many. I literally see miracles every single day. And it's amazing when you can get oxygen into those tissues, what it does. Just Jay Leno. I know you guys have been reading about Jay Leno. It's been all over when he got burned and he went into the hyperbaric, and he's had almost a complete
Oh,
recovery.
really? No, I didn't hear that.
Oh, it's all over, blasted
Wow.
everywhere. And
Wow.
he's been doing the hyperbaric, and he's had almost a complete recovery. And that's just stuff we see all the time. And it's getting to be more well known. But what people think is this is a very new thing. It's not. This has been around since the 1700s.
Yeah.
It's been around for a long time. So this isn't a new concept, but luckily they're making it so that it is more accessible to not just the rich people, but to everybody. And our encouragement, and you and I, we've talked about this a lot, is to get one in every home, get one so that people have access to this. We hear all these things being talked about that are coming out, but the oxygen is absolutely vital. Our bodies have to have it. Every part of our body has to have more oxygen. And this is by far the best place and the best way to get that introduced into the body.
You know, Stephanie, thank you. That's brilliant. That's really brilliant. Really great way to explain it, because when I'm in an elevator and I got to get down to the bottom step and they ask me what it is, I'm like, wow, that elevator speech is really good what you just did there.
Yeah.
But my first introduction to hyperbaric was through Dr. Paul Hart out of New Orleans.
Yeah.
And Al Gerard was a veteran out of San Diego. He had his head actually blown up in Afghanistan. It was open wound, it wasn't just inside, it was open wound. So I had met him down in Long Beach, actually, and he told me about Dr. Hart. And Al's story was so amazing that his whole brain restored, right back to the point where he could go back into Hollywood and act again.
Yeah.
You know, and so I was so blown away, Stephanie. I'm like, I got to know about this. I got to know everything I can know, because, you know, my son had brain injury.
Right.
They didn't use hyperbaric back then. They didn't even talk about it. And Dr. Hart says over 8,300 genes are activated when you're under pressure, which I think is mind boggling. So let's talk about, you know, my passion with veterans. Let's talk about what it's doing now for PTSD and traumatic brain injury. And maybe you can tell a story or two, or share with us a little bit about what it's doing with the veterans that you've been working with.
Well, you know, my heart is very tender for the veterans too. A lot of that was because you bringing in the Triple Crown, that I've always had a tender spot for the veterans, but with you working with them too, and having the opportunity to work with them, I love it. And I'm looking forward to doing a lot more for our veterans, because they are just our heroes, and we've got to remember that. I've actually got a client here. Her husband she started working with me because her husband he did 3 tours. He had massive PTSD with each one of them, very, very severe. And the VA paid for 40 sessions of hyperbaric for him,
Wow,
which he
nice.
needed about, probably 120 or more. But that's the max that they would pay. But she was able to see him go from really just crumpled up into the bedroom, not being able to function, to being able to get out there and function. And so when she got COVID and she was told that she would never be off of the oxygen, and she's young, she'd never be off the oxygen. Her lungs were absolutely destroyed. And then I put an article out there and she saw that. So she called me and said, I know what it did for my husband. What can it do for me? And so she came in, and within 40 sessions, we had her lungs from being completely filled with all sorts of junk and stuff they said she'd never get over, to having a clean bill of health. And they've actually purchased one now so that her husband can get the help that he needs and continue doing the dives that he needs, because everybody is so different. And when you put a stipulation on there that you only get this much, X amount, sometimes that's not enough. Not even close to enough. But I love the fact that we're trying to do everything we can for these veterans. We're trying to be able to get them opportunities to come in. And I had another veteran that I just loved. You met him. And he was just this cute little 97-year-old man. And he would come, just ball of fire. And I absolutely loved him. He was Navy. They'd fly him all over the world to do flag ceremonies and things. And I just adored him. And he came into the clinic on a fairly regular basis. And he's just like, okay, I'm going to Hawaii to go work on raise the flag, And so I need a shot. And so he'd come in and get some oxygen. And, anytime he was flying around, he'd come in and get some more oxygen just to keep him at his optimal. So we can do anything, which is so beautiful, because PTSD, we've got a lot. I'm working with a lot of our PTSD clients right now with our first responders, and some of them are veterans as well. And the PTSD is just amazing, because what's happening when you're getting oxygen into that brain can regenerate, and it will regenerate those cells and those nerves and put everything back to where it's supposed to be. Yeah. And that's what is so beautiful. And the thing about hyperbaric is consistency and frequency. It's not a one and done ever for anybody, unless they're just coming in to get a little boost of energy to go run a 5K. That's not what it's like. It is repairing and regenerating the body in a natural way, the way God planned it to be. And that is putting oxygen into those tissues so they can repair. And people are always asking me, well, will it help this or will it help that? What about this? What about that? And I'm like, it's not going to ask you what your diagnosis is when you go in. Yeah. So let's give it a try. Let's do it the right way. And like I said, I think that it's kind of a miracle for our veterans.
I've seen them over and over again. My former partner, retired Colonel Barry Muse, he's now the president of the International Hyperbaric Medical Foundation. And guess who's on that board? I don't know if you know this or not, but General Flynn's on that board.
Oh, fantastic.
And he's been working to get hyperbaric in the VA, and working very hard. And so we still connect. But after he got the president position, I just went back out basically in the streets and did my thing. And recently, Stephanie, I told you about a veteran that I met that was blinded quite a few years ago. And I worked with him on my nanosoma that you know about, and he started getting his eyesight back. And the key to nanosoma, again, I don't know if you know this or not, but it increases oxygen, nitrate oxygen in the body, in the brain. Nitric oxide in the brain. So he was telling me that it increases the oxygen molecule to the brain through this nanosoma. So what I would love to see is potentially putting nanosoma in some kind of a study with you with hyperbaric to see if it increases that oxygen even quicker, because we know when the plasma is saturated to a certain amount, that's when stem cells starts growing. That's when capillaries start, oxygenating, the frontal lobe starts healing. And so I would love to talk to you about that. I just brought it up on the air, but I think it would be awesome to get some product.
We talked about that one time a ways ago.
Yeah.
And then life
Yeah.
happened. What?
That would be, yeah, life happened, like lockdown and all this other stuff. But I know this is kind of a short interview, but is there anything else you want to say before we go about any veterans or military or families or anybody that, because we've worked with drowned patients, we've worked with all kinds of people in illness and disease, if you will. And so is there anything that you would like to say to people to kind of inspire them, because we're in a time right now that is very scary. People are very, very scared, very depressed, and a little bit of oxygen does amazing things. But what would you like to say in your closing thoughts here, Stephanie?
It does. I have my other show, my Vitality Health show, that I've had the opportunity to interview a number of veterans. Ben Richards is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
He was taken out by an IED, or his tank blew up, and he was very, very, very sick and basically almost dead. And it was through hyperbaric oxygen that he came back, and it regenerated his brain. And, now he's on the circuit, and he was the president of the International Hyperbaric Association at one point in time, or helped with that, and still is doing amazing, wonderful things. And I guess the thing I want to tell everybody is there is not anybody out there that can't benefit from more oxygen. It's more oxygen. And that's a huge, huge thing that we are getting depleted from very quickly in everything that's happening in this environment, and in our foods, and in the places that we could have gotten oxygen from in the past. Just isn't happening. So it's up to us to get the word out, to make sure people know there are lots and lots of centers going up right and left everywhere. And I'm selling a lot of chambers for people's homes. And there is hope. That's the whole thing about this. There is hope. And no matter what your situation is, no matter what you're dealing with, no matter if you're a veteran or not a veteran, or if you're working with multiple veterans, there is hope. Don't give up, because it's not going to say, okay, well, you've got a heart issue, let's go work on that. Or you've got broken bones, let's go work on that. It doesn't do that. It's going to work on everything in the body. And that's what I love, because the hope is there if we can just get people to try it and commit to it, and be able to trust in the process, because the process is God's process. You put the oxygen in the body, and the body knows what to do with it.
It's so beautiful. If we have people watching this and they're in trouble, if you will, PTSD, depression, suicidal thoughts, do you happen to have a database of a network where they can maybe look in the country where there is a chamber, or what we can do to maybe link on my website, and I can send them over to you as well? Do you, and plus you in Idaho, I mean, I'd like you to give out your information, but do we have a network of places where people can look up to go to if they want to get the treatment?
The International Hyperbaric Association has a network on there that's all of us that are involved in that. You can go on there and find centers all over the place. I do have connections with a lot of people. So let me give you my email address, and your listeners are more than happy to email me. And that is contact@myvitalityhealthsolutions with an S.com. It's kind of a long one, but it's contact@myvitalityhealthsolutions.com. Perfect. Thank you so much. Awesome. And so it is in the link, and I would love to talk to anybody. I've got people opening clinics right now. It's just kind of been fun, because through different connections, we've opened a clinic in Provo, Utah. We've opened a clinic in Temple, Texas. We're opening a clinic over in Arizona. We're opening another clinic in Florida right now. We've got, and for me, I don't look at that as competition. I look at that as opportunities for more people to be able to get in to do this amazing, amazing therapy, because it's life-saving on a lot of different levels.
Well, I think what's very important, because when I was introduced to hyperbaric, I was introduced to the hard shells. The hard shell chambers, they go, 6 atmospheres, whatever. They go deep for like the SEALs and stuff. But I think people need to realize that the soft shell chambers that you've been using are very applicable to have in your home. And let's say I'm going through Oregon now here, and let's say we have a group of veterans and they're living in a home. There should be a hyperbaric in that facility so that they could start using it, because it's very safe. It's not like having the regular deep, the deep dives. So I think this is very important for us to send out that proper information so that we can start getting more help. And I know that the other thing that hyperbaric does very well is it offers anything you take in the body, it nanosizes it. It helps it to assimilate in your body better into the cells and into the DNA. So I think this is very important because we're going to be talking about foodology throughout this series that I'm doing. And that is something that I would like you to be involved with, because it's really about food and how we can heal ourselves from food. But hyperbaric and oxygen is a great carrier to get it into the parts of the body that sometimes are bottlenecked. And so, Stephanie, you're awesome. Thank you
Can
so
I
much.
say one more thing real quick?
Absolutely.
Janet, before we
Absolutely.
leave. So, and I don't know if you know this or not, but about 4 months ago, I basically died. I
Oh,
did not know I had a kidney stone, and it was excruciatingly painful.
wow.
And I didn't even realize. I knew I had a kidney stone, but the interesting thing was I've been doing hyperbaric and all the different things. And when I went to the doctor, he's like, you need to get to emergency now, because you're running on a 3% of your kidney. And so, me being me, I said, wait a minute, I got to go do my radio show first. So I'll go do that, and then I'll go down to the emergency room, right? So I did. I went and did my show, and then we went down to the emergency in Pocatello, Idaho here, and they're like, how are you even walking? How are you functioning? How are you even you shouldn't be alive. You're running on a 3% on your kidney.
Wow.
And they told me that once I went in, I would be dead, because I would be so full of infection, I would turn septic, and they didn't think they could save me. And I said, no, I don't have infection, because cancer or none of this stuff can live in a body that is getting hyperbaric oxygen.
Right.
And I said, it just doesn't work. I said, that's why I walked in here. So the next morning after I came out of the surgery and everything, they're like, you don't have any infection. We don't know what happened. And I said, I'll tell you exactly what happened. And within 4 days of recovery, and the doctors trying to look at me, trying to figure out what was going on, they're like, we don't even know what to do with you, because you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing that. Your body shouldn't be, you shouldn't be alive, but you are, and your numbers are really good. And we don't know what to attribute that to. And I said, let me tell you what to attribute that to: a lot of prayer, a lot of faith, and a lot of hyperbaric. And it's like,
Wow. God bless you, man. That is so. I remember you being sick, but it was, I didn't realize it was that bad. I'm so sorry. I would have reconnected better, because I had no idea it was that bad. Because I know
I didn't either.
Oh my gosh. Well, in closing too, Stephanie, about my mug of love program. It's yesterday I was kind of having a healing day, and I was watching these videos of these families coming back from war, whether it be the father surprising the child at school, or the wife, or the mother, or whatever. And I literally bawled my eyes out for 45 minutes thinking, these guys are just the most selfless people that there is. And they go away, some of them a year and a half before they even see their families. I think we lost Stephanie. And so the Mug of Love program is really all about reconnecting ourselves with our military and our veterans and their families. Right. So I would love to, and it's a smart mug, so you can put anything you want in there. So I think we're going to be using it for trivia and different things. And I'd love to put some of your information in the mugs. So when people purchase them, there's 2 in the set. The one, every time they use it, to pray for our families, our military, our country, our friends, whatever. And that is a lot of power there if you have people praying every day, right? And the second mug is the collectible mug for the shelf. And soon, maybe in a couple of years, it'll be worth some money, because they were the cornerstone of bringing people back together again and honoring our nation, our veterans, and each other. The self-love is what I'm trying to get out there. So I'm really excited about this movement, because I have some people that have huge databases. And I don't know if you saw Hamlin when he fell on the field at the NFL game. It was horrendous.
Absolutely.
Right? You know what made me cry even more than him falling was what people did. It didn't matter whether you're on this side of the bleachers or the side of the bleachers, or what team you're on, or who you were. They all came together, and they were all praying on the field. And people have no idea sometimes how powerful prayer and coming together in love is, because you and I have dealt with critical family members, as I have. The only thing we have is love at that time, right?
Yeah.
And so we
lots
can
of love and
infuse
lots
it
of prayer.
in something. Yeah, if we can infuse it in something, and everybody every day thinking about what you want to pray for, this reminds you, right? And so I'd love to have you involved with that, because I want to go on a tour, a speaking tour about this Mug of Love, because I think it's something that's a token of how great we are as a human race. And we've forgotten that these last couple of years. So Thank you again. You're awesome. And I want to have you back again. And maybe we can have Ben Richards on, or a veteran on, talking about the power and the miracle that hyperbaric did for them. So thank you so much, and be safe out there. And I'm so glad you're doing well.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you again for the invitation.
Thank you. Bye-bye now, hun. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.